Long before modern borders carved up the Middle East, the southern Arabian Peninsula was home to one of the most valuable trade networks in the ancient world. At its heart, hidden within what is now the empty quarter desert, stood Ubar. Its location was not accidental. Ubar emerged near critical caravan routes that carried frankincense, an aromatic resin prized across Egypt, Rome, Mesopotamia, and India. In an age when incense was as valuable as gold, geography was destiny. Despite the harshness of the surrounding desert, this region once experienced a milder climate. Seasonal rains and underground aquifers made limited settlement possible. Ubar's founders understood this balance. They built their city near natural limestone formations that trapped water beneath the surface, allowing wells and cisterns to sustain large caravans crossing thousands of kilometers of sand. Over time, Ubar became a logistical lifeline. Caravans rested there, exchanged goods, and resupplied before continuing north and west. Wealth accumulated not through conquest, but through control of movement. Whoever controlled Ubar controlled access to trade itself. Archaeological evidence suggests organized urban planning, storage facilities, and fortified structures, signs of a city designed not for war, but for endurance. Ancient texts and later oral traditions describe Ubar as a city of towering pillars, a metaphor likely reflecting its monumental architecture and economic dominance rather than literal skyscrapers. What is clear is that Ubar was real, strategic, and extraordinarily influential. Yet its greatest strength, its dependence on a fragile environment, would also plant the seeds of its eventual decline. At its height, Ubar was not defined by armies or empires, but by movement. Every day, long caravans arrived from distant regions, their camels heavy with frankincense, spices, textiles, and precious metals. The city functioned as a commercial engine, converting geography into power. Merchants negotiated prices beneath shaded colonnades, while scribes recorded transactions that linked Ubar to markets thousands of kilometers away. Daily life in the city followed the rhythm of trade. Wells were guarded and regulated, as water was both life and currency. Storage chambers protected valuable goods from heat and sand, while caravan leaders paid fees for access to supplies and safe passage. This steady flow of commerce enriched the ruling elite, who oversaw trade agreements and controlled access to the city's infrastructure. Archaeological evidence suggests a structured society. Craftsmen produced tools, containers, and ornaments, while laborers maintained roads and water systems. Religious and civic spaces indicate that Ubar was not merely a trading post, but a permanent urban settlement with cultural traditions and social hierarchy. Wealth brought stability, but it also created dependence. As generations passed, Ubar's prosperity encouraged expansion. More wells were dug, larger caravans arrived, demand grew. What had once been a balanced system began to strain under its own success. The city's survival depended on underground water reserves that could not replenish indefinitely. Yet the flow of trade showed no sign of slowing. From the outside, Ubar appeared unstoppable, a city thriving against the odds of nature itself. But beneath the surface, the very resources that sustained its daily life were being quietly exhausted, setting in motion forces its inhabitants could not yet see. Ubar's wealth was inseparable from its influence. By controlling the flow of goods along the southern Arabian trade routes, the city became more than a commercial hub, it became a political force. Traders did not simply bring frankincense and spices, they brought information, alliances, and loyalty. Whoever controlled Ubar effectively controlled access to some of the most valuable commodities in the ancient world. The city's leaders exercised power through regulation rather than conquest. Toll stations, fortified gates, and carefully maintained roads allowed them to monitor movement and enforce rules. Political authority was embedded in the very infrastructure of Ubar, with city planning reflecting both efficiency and control. Archaeologists have found evidence of administrative buildings, suggesting bureaucratic systems managed trade, taxation, and civic life. Ubar's influence extended to surrounding settlements. Smaller communities relied on the city for trade and access to water, creating networks of dependence. Diplomatic relationships were formed with distant regions, and emissaries traveled across deserts to negotiate trade agreements. In this way, Ubar's political power was rooted in economics, not arms. Yet the same networks that created dominance also created vulnerability. The city depended on continuous trade and the delicate balance of desert resources. Any disruption, whether from shifting routes, climate stress, or resource depletion, could ripple outward, threatening both prosperity and authority. In this way, the seeds of decline were sown even in the midst of peak power. Ubar was, in essence, a city of influence built on interconnected systems. Its strength lay in its integration with the wider region, but this integration also meant that Ubar's fate was tied to forces far beyond its walls, setting the stage for the challenges that would eventually undo it. For centuries, Ubar thrived by balancing human ingenuity with the harsh desert environment. Wells, cisterns, and water management systems allowed the city to support caravans and sustain its population. But the desert is unforgiving, and the balance that had once sustained life began to shift. Overuse of groundwater, combined with natural climate changes, gradually reduced the city's water supply. Archaeological studies indicate that rainfall patterns became less reliable, and seasonal aquifers started to dry. Trade, which had been Ubar's lifeline, also created pressure. Larger caravans demanded more water and storage space, while increasing urban density stressed the city's infrastructure. Roads, storage facilities, and cisterns required constant maintenance. Any disruption could cause cascading problems. Evidence of abandoned wells and collapsed storage structures suggests that the city struggled to keep up with its own expansion. These environmental pressures, compounded over decades, undermined the stability of Ubar's society. Caravans began to divert to alternative routes, bypassing the city entirely. Dependence on fragile desert systems meant that even minor climatic changes could have major consequences. Without reliable water, and with trade increasingly uncertain, the economic and political systems that had made Ubar powerful began to falter. By the time the first signs of decline were visible, the city's fate was already entwined with forces beyond human control. Ubar's story illustrates the delicate balance between human ambition and environmental limits, how even the most prosperous civilizations can be imperiled when natural resources are stretched beyond their sustainable capacity. As environmental pressures and declining trade took their toll, Ubar gradually emptied. Families who had depended on wells and caravan income moved to more reliable settlements. Merchants redirected their routes, bypassing the once thriving hub entirely. Archaeological evidence shows a slow abandonment. Homes were left intact, storage facilities untouched, and roads fell into disrepair. There was no dramatic collapse, just a quiet exodus that would erase the city from the map. The city's disappearance was amplified by geography. Buried beneath sand dunes, Ubar was easy to overlook. Shifting sands covered streets and structures over decades, erasing the signs of human occupation. Later travelers referred to the region in vague terms, mentioning lost cities or pillars in the desert. But without concrete coordinates, the city became a legend whispered through generations. Oral traditions preserved fragments of knowledge, yet the specifics of location and scale were lost to time. Historical records from nearby civilizations provide scant evidence. The city's decline coincided with changing trade networks and political shifts in Arabia. New centers of commerce and power emerged elsewhere, and Ubar's role as a trading hub was no longer relevant. Without strategic or economic importance, the city faded not only physically but also from historical consciousness. By the time modern scholars began to investigate, Ubar had become an enigma. The sands had swallowed not just buildings, but memory itself. The silence surrounding the city would last thousands of years, making its eventual rediscovery all the more remarkable. Ubar's story illustrates a broader lesson. Even thriving civilizations can vanish without a trace when human activity and environmental conditions are out of balance. For millennia, Ubar lay hidden beneath the shifting sands of the Arabian Desert, its streets and structures erased from memory. It was not until 1992 that modern technology offered the first concrete clues. Satellite imagery captured unusual linear patterns in the desert, suggesting buried roads and settlements. Archaeologists, guided by these high-resolution images, embarked on expeditions that would uncover traces of a lost city once thought legendary. Excavations revealed walls, wells, and pottery fragments, material evidence that confirmed the existence of a significant settlement. These findings aligned with historical accounts of caravan routes and trade networks, providing a tangible link between ancient texts, oral traditions, and the archaeological record. For the first time, the Atlantis of the sands moved from myth into documented history. Yet even today, debates persist. Some scholars question whether the site corresponds precisely to the Ubar described in texts, suggesting it may have been part of a larger network of desert settlements rather than a single city. Others emphasize that natural erosion and human activity over millennia make it difficult to reconstruct the city's full scale and structure. Despite these uncertainties, the rediscovery of Ubar illustrates the power of modern technology to illuminate the past. The story of Ubar now exists in two timelines: the ancient world it once dominated, and the modern era in which its secrets are uncovered, analyzed, and debated. Its legacy serves as a reminder that history is both fragile and enduring, and that even lost civilizations can speak across millennia when curiosity, science, and technology converge. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the past.